On today's episode, I am featuring 9 high-end Christmas wreath ideas. All of my supplies are from the Dollar Tree. Now let's get crafting. For this DIY, we are going to be using 3 of these nautical ropes, and we're going to turn them into the coolest wreath ever. So we're going to take the 3 ropes and fold them right in half and cut them, because we are going to have 2 lines that have 3 ropes glued together, and we're going to start weaving them together. Now my best tip is make sure at the very ends you put a little bit of glue and twist them into place, so that way they don't come unraveled as you're working with them. So once I had those all in place, I went ahead and laid down my first one on the table, and then the second one came over the top. Now I'm gluing the pieces together to make sure that they're going to hold their form. And then the one on the bottom always comes over to the right. So you can see here that I've taken the bottom one and I've swung it over that rope, and now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take it and I'm going to swing it over, and we're going to just continue to do this over and over again, swinging it over to your right. So as you're going, you're going to want to make sure that you're gluing the ropes to make sure they keep their form, because we're still working in the form of a circle. This is where it does get a little bit tricky, so make sure when you're gluing, you're making sure that you're curving your rope so that it doesn't go too straight and it doesn't lose the form of the circle. And you're just going to keep doing this over and over again until you get to the very end of the rope and it comes all the way together as a circle. So here I am, I'm making my curve, I'm making my turn, and this is what it looks like when I've gone all the way around. Now you're going to take the ends and make sure they're all nice and straight and even. Glue those together, those 2 ends where we started and where we ended, and then bring that last one over and then tuck it under and then glue that all into place. Once it's all glued into place, go ahead and flip it over, and you're going to pick a fabric of your choice. Now I'm going to be going with green because I thought this was really pretty and I had this green ribbon on hand. And here comes Comet. He's up on my table and he wanted my attention. I kept telling him to go away and he kept meowing at me, and then eventually he just hopped up on the table. So you can see that I took those pieces of fabric and I put them underneath the opening so it would show that color, and then I glued it down to a piece of foam core board, and now I'm going to X-Acto knife and cut it out with my scissors. I just kind of went back and forth between the 2 of them in all the tricky places. Be careful not to cut your rope because this rope will want to fray and come apart. So just take your time on this part and get it nice and clean where you don't see the foam core coming out on the side. When you flip it over, this is what it should look like. It almost reminded me of those baby teething rings. I thought it was so funny because it was exactly that shape. Then you're going to flip it back over and you're going to start adding in some greenery. I love this frosted fern from the Dollar Tree. Anytime I find it when I go, I always pick some more up because I just think it's so pretty. So I added that with some greenery, and now I'm taking 3 bells that I had from Target that I bought last year, and I'm just going to put some twine on them. I did a little slip knot at the very bottom so that way I can make sure that it looks really pretty at the end. And then I went ahead and took all 3 of those, made them at different lengths, ran them through the loop of the rope, and then I added a bow. I am over on Instagram, if you didn't know, and I love sharing my content over there as well. I am always sharing sneak peeks of things I'm working on, and I'm also sharing what's just going on with my family. So if you're interested, come on by to Instagram and say hi to me, and let's become friends over there as well. This craft, we're going to be taking a large pizza pan from the Dollar Tree, a metal welcome word sign from the Dollar Tree, some boxwood greenery from Hobby Lobby, and then some greenery from the Dollar Tree. And by the way, these red peonies are my favorite that they had come out this season. They are so beautiful. I've been using them very sparingly, and they are going to be used on this, and I always am so reluctant anytime I ever get them out because I just think, oh, I'm going to run out, and they're like my favorite. So here I am with my Crop-A-Dile. You saw me punching some holes. I love the Crop-A-Dile tool just because it goes through metal. And once I had those holes all in place where I needed them to, I took out the metal word and the pizza pan outside, and I spray painted them both to make it look nice and high end. And then once I was done with that, I'm going to take some of the garland. I took 2 long strands that would make that curve long enough, and then I zip tied them right to the pan. This is going to make sure that nothing falls off, because friends, I don't trust hot glue on metal. It's just always going to come off. I really like things to look high end and not fall apart when you put them out, especially on your front door. So once I've got that on, I ended up gluing in the berries, some of the boxwood. It's really amazing how when you put on these boxwood stems with that garland greenery from the Dollar Tree, how it just really elevates the look of it. I really love combining different greeneries like that. I think it looks so beautiful. Now I'm taking a ribbon and I'm cutting the tails, and I'm just gluing those down into place, and then I'm going to add on my bow and glue all that down, fluff it out the way that you want it to look, and then I'm going to take some of those red peonies and I'm going to glue 2 of them down lower and then 1 up higher in around the bow, because we're going to add 1 more bow on top of this tan bow. So once you've got all of those glued into place, I'm going to move on, let all that dry for a second, and move on to the word welcome for the front of our sign or our wreath that we're making. And I'm just going to add in some E6000. That's going to really hold it down, and then that hot glue is going to just keep it in place while it continues to dry. Now I wanted to rough up the edges just a little bit because I did like that it had that metally shiny look coming through that gray spray paint. So now I'm going in with some E6000, and you don't have to do this part if glitter is not your thing, but I thought it looked like frost on the pan. I thought this made it look really cute, and it took it from it looking like a pizza pan to looking more like an intentional home decor piece. So I added on some E6000. I'm adding on lots of glitter just so it makes sure it catches all over, and I'm tapping it down to make sure it's just really worked in there. And then I'm going to shake it all off. And then once that's all drying, I went ahead and got 1 more bow that was a gingham bow to add right in the middle. Today our supplies are coming from the Dollar Tree yet again, because I just feel like their supplies there are the most affordable when you want to do crafts on a budget. So we're going to be using these 2 different size wreath forms and this dry towel car fabric that you can get in the car section. You're also going to need a whole bunch of zip ties, and they also have that in their car section. So go ahead and take 2 of the same size large wreath forms. Now I can't remember because I cut the tag off and I didn't write it down, but I believe these are 18 to 20 inches wide wreath forms. They have them out right now for the Christmas season, and I just adore these things because they are such a deal, and I feel like you can do so many cool things with them. So today I'm going to show you all how I'm going to make an oversized DIY snowman that is going to look so cute on your front porch. Go ahead and take your zip ties and secure these 2 forms together. I used about 4 of them, and I just made sure it was all nice and snug and then snipped off the extra. Then you're going to take a smaller wreath size form. They should have these around the same section, but if you can't find them in the Christmas area, you can go over to their floral section and you'll find them there. But I believe this one was a 12 to 16 inch size, and you can see noticeably that it's smaller. Once you've got those all zip tied in place, you're then going to take that cloth that they sell for cars to be dried with, and you're going to just flip over your form, and you're going to start hot gluing that fabric right onto it. Now you're going to want to make sure you're pulling really tightly, and if you get into spots that are kind of tricky, use a popsicle stick. I find that those are the best way to keep your fingers from being burnt. But you're just going to put a nice helping of hot glue and then pull it really tight, and then continue to move on to the corners once you've got the sides all done. Make sure you tuck the excess down under because you don't want that hanging out. I just think it looks higher quality whenever you push things down and tuck things in place versus letting things flap loose like that. Now the back side of this is not as cleanly polished as I normally would do it, because I usually like to make it look store-bought and really professional, but no one's gonna see the back side of this because it's hanging on your front door. Then you're gonna take another cloth, and right where that seam line hits, you're gonna go ahead and hot glue 2 of them together and then flip it over again. Once you've got that hot glued, you're gonna go ahead and flip it over, and you're gonna start doing the same process again, pulling it really tight. And when you get to that corner where the 2 wreaths meet up, just make sure you take your time hot gluing it into place, because you want to be able to notice the 2 bumps that go in, so it looks like a 3 snowball stacked up snowman. Then when you get that part all done in the middle, you're going to move towards the top. Now the cloth for drying your tails off actually fits perfectly over the smaller wreath forms, so at this point you're just going to need 1 more, and you're going to start doing the same process, gluing it all into place, making sure it is nice and smooth on the opposite side. You're going to notice that there's a little bit of a gap in between the neck and the body, and that's okay, because we are going to take this tablecloth runner that they have at the Dollar Tree. They have green, red, and black right now out at their stores. I think they have brown too, but we're not going to need that. But I love this because it looked like it was a scarf. It was just meant to be for this project. So go ahead and put your scarf or your table runner around your snowman's neck. And I like to make sure my knot pulls over through the top. You can see I like to fold it a certain way in here, so that way it looks really poofy and big, and I just kind of work up that part where the scarves are tied in the middle, and then I like to hot glue down the tails into place where I think it'll look really pretty and really well thought out. So you can see here that I'm really massaging it and making sure it's all in place the way I want it to be. Now we're going to take the black one, and this is going to be perfect for his coal buttons or rock buttons, whatever you use when you make a snowman at home. And then you're going to just cut out some large circles. These are about 2-inch circles, maybe 2.5 inches that I freehand cut, because you want them to look a little wonky. It makes them look more like rocks. And then right at that seam, I like to put one right there, just because it helps camouflage that a little bit more. People will notice that circle versus that seam line. Then you're going to make another 2 circles for his eyes, and then a whole bunch of really small ones for his mouth. I had so much fun making this snowman. He was super easy to make, and the total supplies that I spent on this was about $8. Then I took some drop cloth that I had on hand. You can honestly use any fabric, but I love the texture of drop cloth. It's kind of rugged. And then I cut it into the size of a carrot and then hot glued all around. And then taking some of that orange paint that we used back in the fall time, I got it out and painted it all orange. And then once it was dry, I hot glued it on his face. Make sure when you're doing this project to use a lot of hot glue, because it's going to be out in the weather and you want it to make sure it lasts throughout the season. Then I got some sticks from my yard and I snipped 2 small holes. You don't want them to be too big, in the body of the snowman, and I slid them down and through that wreath form. You want it to be nice and snug in there, and then I just zip tied it into place and hot glued it. Make sure you check the dimensions of your door, because you don't want to make his arms out too far, otherwise it won't fit on your door. This can happen, so make sure you measure and you make sure his arms are not too wide. Then to finish him off, I took the green table runner that they had at the Dollar Tree right now for Christmas, and I went around just as you're seeing here. I wrapped it around, and then I made sure I tucked that last part underneath that lower circle on the form, because we're going to use that as a hang-up part on this. And then I just put some more of that fabric that you used earlier on the snowman's body inside of the hat to poof it up a little bit. Took a piece of twine, wrapped it around, and then to finish the look, I took my scissors and snipped the top of his little beanie cap. I just think this is so cute. What do you all think? For this DIY, we're going to be using one of these 3D wreath forms, a piece of foam, 2 of the snowmans from the Dollar Tree, as well as 2 picks and some fabric. Now I'm going to be using this red and white gingham fabric and some white felt. Now we're going to start by just popping off one of the hats on one of the snowmen. And then I kind of switched gears for like 2 seconds because I realized, oh, hold on a second, I need to make my base for everything to be going into. And I took apart that 3D wreath form, and I'm only going to be using one of the largest wreath forms. So I'm now going to take that piece of foam, you saw me cutting it apart with my scissors, and we need something to be able to put everything on. Otherwise it's just going to get loose and weak and fall apart. So what I like to do is I like to cut a piece of foam, and you can use your scissors or a craft knife or even a kitchen knife or whatever you have on hand. And then I just pressed that wire down into the foam and glued it into place. Now we're going to go back over to the snowman, or shall I say snow woman, because we're going to be making a girl snowman or snow woman. I just did it again. That's so funny. Anyway, we're going to just take some of that fabric. I took some of the white felt, rolled it up, put it right at the edge, glued it on to the top of the head, and then I'm going to just get another piece of this felt and push it down in there so that way it stays nice and fluffy and it doesn't lose its shape. And then I'm going to bring it together with a piece of twine, cut off the top, and you have made yourself the cutest little snow girl. So now we are going to take some of these dowels and we're going to cut them down to the size that you'll need of your foam and the back of the snowman's heads. And we're going to just push that down in there because we want to make sure that these don't pop off if you have windy weather. Where we live, we have a lot of windy weather at this time of year, and you're going to just put some hot glue down in there, and this is going to allow them to become nice and fastened onto this foam piece that we put on earlier. So go ahead and just pop that right in there. I don't know why I enjoyed this part so much, but it felt really fun. It's kind of like when you're building IKEA furniture and they have those little wood nubs that you have to put in between to bring together a dresser. Leave a comment down below if you've ever built IKEA furniture. They usually have a lot of those. I think the craziest one that I ever had was when we were building our island for our kitchen. There felt like there were 1,000 of those things, and I actually really enjoyed doing that part. So once you have your 2 snow people on, I'm going to add some hot glue right in between them to make sure, again, that bonds it and holds it and just helps it stay together. Now we're going to take 2 of the picks from the Dollar Tree. We're going to break them all apart and keep putting them into that foam, just making sure we cover all of that green color because we want to make it look like it's a whole bunch of pretty greenery on there, not the foam. And just keep playing with it until you get the look that you like. Now I really wanted there to be a pine cone between the 2 of them, but I didn't like that it was pushing it so high up. So I took my pliers and I'm just going to cut away any of that pine cone that's not allowing it to lay flat. Once you had everything all in place, go ahead and make yourself a bow. I have a bow video, I'll link it down below. I don't make bows traditionally how most people do it. I actually like doing it the way that a lot of stores do it. And now I'm going to take the end of my bow tails and I'm going to hide the last of that foam so nobody will see it on your front door when they come up to knock on your door. So I'm going to just go ahead and put some hot glue, tap it all into place, and then to finish the look, I thought it would be really cute to take this cotton stem and go ahead and just place that right in between them on the bow. I am going to be taking these supplies that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. Start by removing all of the canvas fabric from the frames. Now these frames are high quality thick pieces of wood, which is the reason why I have decided to use them. So many people forever have been trying to figure out how to create a window frame from popsicle sticks and all sorts of crazy things, but this is the fastest way to make a really darling farmhouse window frame. So you're going to take 2 of the ends and glue them together, and then you're going to repeat that on the other 2, and then once you've got those glued together, you're going to glue the middle to each other. So now you're going to have 4 pieces all glued together, and to make it a little bit stronger because, you know, it's still hot glue, You're going to flip it over and take some popsicle sticks and glue those at the seams. This is going to make it really sturdy and strong without it breaking or falling apart on you if you barely even drop it. Then you're going to take some brown paint and water it down to create a wood stain. Now, you don't have to do this if you're planning on painting it white, which is what you're going to see me do next, but I want you to see that if you are more of a wood-loving person, this is a really pretty option as well. I just wanted you to be able to see that if you take some brown paint and some water, it makes it look like a stained vintage piece of wood. Now, because I want mine to be white and I love the color white painted on things, my husband makes fun of me all the time because I'm always bringing things into our home and painting them white. I'm going to take some of this paint with a small brush and I'm just going to lightly brush it on because I do still want that wood grain to come through. I really do love that rustic farmhouse look, but I love that weathered paint look as well. So I'm just going to lightly brush that all over my frame. And then once I'm all done painting it, I'm going to put it to the side and let it dry and move on to another part. Don't forget to flip around your frame on different angles so you don't miss painting one side. I have that happen all the time. Now you're going to take your wreath, and I picked this up from the floral section. It wasn't in the Christmas decor. You're going to have to go over to that section and you will find all sorts of wreaths that they have there. I took a pick that had pine cones and a cotton stem and the Christmas tree stems, and I just cut it all apart, as well as a vine that I picked up from Hobby Lobby a long time ago that has boxwood leaves. I thought the different green textures would be really pretty on this wreath. Once I've got all my greenery glued into place, I'm then going to add in some color and that cotton stem. I just think that this looks so pretty and natural and more real versus fake. Do you know what I mean? Then I'm going to add in my berries and my cotton stem, and I just think at this point it looks so stinking pretty. Make sure you hot glue everything down into place really well, just because it keeps it looking nice for long term, especially when you pack things up when Christmas is over. Things can kind of get smushed and they break off. Now you're going to take the two birds that you pick up from the Dollar Tree and you are going to pop off their little clips on their bums. You don't need those, just because we're going to be hot gluing it into place. So give your birds a nice helping of hot glue and then just place them where you would like them to be. And I think this looks so cute. It looks like they have their own little nest inside this wreath. And funny enough, every single winter we actually have a pair of birds lay eggs in our wreath on the front door. Then to finish the wreath, you're going to take a piece of twine, 2 of the jingle bells. There are 12 in a pack, so you can use these for other things, but I'm going to take just 2 of them and I'm going to tie them to the end of a piece of twine. This is going to allow them to hang down nicely and look really pretty. And then you're going to just drape it over the bottom of your wreath and hot glue that into place and let it sit for a minute. Now ignore that burlap ribbon at the bottom. I decided to take it off at the end, so just ignore that it's there. But to fasten your wreath to your window frame, you're going to take a piece of twine. You're going to pull it through on the back side. You don't want to see it from the front, so just make sure you're going down the back side of the wreath, and then you're going to tie it to your window frame. And then to make sure it stays nice and secure, you're going to take some scissors, cut off that extra twine so you don't see that coming around the front, and hot glue it down into place. Now to make a hanger up at the top, you're going to take some twine. I used some thick twine that I untwisted from the Dollar Tree rope. And then you're going to simply add on a bow. For this craft, we are going to be taking this thick ribbon that I used in another craft where I'm going to be using this all throughout Christmas because I found it on a really good deal. Some of the buffalo check ribbon from the Dollar Tree, this 3D wreath form, these metal letters, some greenery and some berries, and then these garland twist ties. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take apart the wreath form. We're going to take the biggest ring that they have, and I show it towards the end, but I don't actually show it fully. You're going to see that I actually bent the wreath form to be more of an oval shape. There's something about it being an oval shape that makes it look so different and more high end, like you would see in a boutique. So I actually just gently squeeze the sides in until it makes more of an oval shape. But what you're going to see me doing right now is I'm taking some twine and I'm working with this frosted fern. I love this frosted fern. I think it is so pretty, and I love that the Dollar Tree came out with it this year. I wish I could have found more of it, but I only ended up getting a couple of picks because it was so popular and already gone when I first came across it. So I'm just going to take some twine and I'm twisting it on and getting the fern all settled on there, and then I twist a little more, glue a little more until it's nice and secure on there. It's a little tricky, I'm going to admit, when you're first working on this wire, but once you get it going, those first couple of pieces, after a while you start to get your rhythm with it and it all starts to come together, and then it becomes really easy to start adding on like the berries and any of the other picks or things that you want to put on it. So just know that getting that fern started is the hardest part with the twine. Once I've got all of those twisted on, I went ahead and added in my berries, and again, I don't want them to come off, so you're going to see me here working with the twine again, just kind of getting in there and trying to make sure that you don't see the twine. I think that's where it can look, you know, like a DIY. We want to make it look high end, so when people see it they just think that is so beautiful, and then you surprise them and say, oh, I made that for my house. Yeah, I like to craft. And then your friends or whoever is that's stopping by, they will just say they think it's so pretty, and you'll be so excited because you made it. So this is the fun part. There are lots of bell options out there. I found these red bells at the Dollar Tree. I almost used those. I also really liked these larger ones that they had at the Dollar Tree, but I ended up settling on these bells that they had in the Target dollar bullseye spot. It was a garland, and I thought these bells would be so cute, very magnolia looking, high end, where they charge so much for their wreaths, and I knew that we could make this look really, really beautiful on a wonderful budget of just a couple of bucks. You know, I like to always shoot right around $10 or below for my DIYs. So I took a piece of twine, I ended up looping a knot at the top, and then you can see here that once I cut those bells away from that banner or garland that they had, I ended up getting 4 of them to be able to have it different lengths, and I'm tying that right in the center where I added in all of my greenery. Now I'm going to take some of this ribbon. I'm going to first tie on a long ribbon because I want that to be dangling down with the bells. I thought that would look so beautiful, so magnolia, so Studio McGee. I love Studio McGee too. I've loved them for actually a long time. They're from California, where we lived before we moved to Missouri. I just think that this would look so beautiful, so high end. So once you've got your beautiful bow on there, I've just said beautiful like 5 times, friends, because I really was having fun making this wreath. I'm going to take some of that thicker ribbon, and I'm going to just, you can see here how I snuck it underneath, and then I pulled it back over, glued it in place, and then came back over, and then went and did it over to the other side. I'm zigzagging it back and forth to make it look like it's a ribbon, almost a banner ribbon flowing. And then I'm going to take this metal word believe, and I glued it on with hot glue, but once again, I don't always trust hot glue completely, so I'm taking a small wire, sneaking it through the ribbon, pinching it as I'm pushing it down in there. Once I've got it nice and tight and snug, I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to just twist it and then cut off the extra and hot glue it so it doesn't scratch your front door. That would just be the worst. Don't let it scratch your paint. Add a little hot glue. It'll keep it safe from that wire poking or scratching anything. And this is what it looks like close up, and after that you're ready to display it on your front door. This next one, when I saw these snowman ornaments, I thought they were so cute that I wanted to turn them into a wreath. And so I picked up several of them, And then as well as this red glitter ribbon that they had at the Dollar Tree, I realized that they were the perfect width to sneak underneath the berries on the snowman's hat and to be able to help you bring it around the backside and tie it on to the wreath form. And so once I did that and I got that first guy in place and hot glued the back of him so he wouldn't slide or move around, I went ahead and did all the other snowmen. And you can see here that hot gluing them into place is the best thing to keep them from moving on you. Then I took some of this mesh garland ribbon. I forgot what this stuff is called. I always forget. But I took it, brought in the middle pieces, and then doubled that up. So I did that 2 times to create a really poofy looking type bow. And then the Dollar Tree has these really cool garland twist ties. I went ahead and took that twist tie and then I just twisted on that bow. Once you've gone all the way around doing them in your desired places, go ahead and get your Christmas balls that you can pick up as well from the Dollar Tree, and then you're just going to glue them into spots to help, again, fill in your wreath and hide that wreath form around the backside of your wreath. And you can add as many or as little as you'd like, but I knew I wanted to add some pine cones, so I didn't do that many because I thought the pine cones would make it look really cute as well. Then to fill in the wreath a little bit more, I took some more of that garland twist and I just went around some more of the spots where I noticed that it needed more fluffing and more filling, and it just made it look really great once you go all the way around with it. Okay, so these pine cones, they don't sell at the Dollar Tree, but you can find them at your local park when you go for walks, especially around this time of year because they start to fall. If your pine cones are closed, there are all kinds of tips online where you can put them in your oven to help them open up and to kill off any germs or bacteria. We have had these forever, so I've been saving them in bags and they were already open. So I hot glued mine on into place. And then this is the fun part, I think, of this whole project. I took some white paint and went over the pine cones and the Christmas, tree twist wraps that they sell at the Dollar Tree, and I just lightly tapped everything to make it look like snow had settled on this wreath. And then you can sprinkle some glitter as you go if you want glitter, and if not, the white paint looks just pretty too. And then you're going to take the white paint as well, and I went over the snowman's brim of his hat and the top of the hat just to make it look all cohesive and looking like it was out in the snow. And then this ribbon garland was from the Dollar Tree as well. I love this ribbon so much. It's a little bit messy when you're working with it because it has like a thick glitter on it, and it can kind of fall off as you're moving it around, but it is so pretty. It's on a mesh ribbon form, so I loved it. So I tied myself a bow and then attached that to the bottom of my wreath, and I used another one of those twist garland ties to be able to really keep it in place. And here you go, the finished look.
Please give this video a thumbs up because it helps out my channel and it means so much to me.
For this project, we are going to need these darling buckets that you can get over in the wedding section at the Dollar Tree, and then one of these 3D wreath forms. Now, they have been putting these out more regularly in their floral section, so hopefully by now some of you have been able to find them. I know when they first came out, nobody could find them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the largest ring, and then we're going to take these buckets apart. We're going to pop out the handle, and you can keep that wire because it's a good piece of wire for maybe another craft another day, and then we're going to bend down those tabs where the bucket had those pieces. Now here is my Crop-A-Dile. I use this a lot on my channel. A couple of you have been asking to see it up closer, so here it is. You insert it into this top piece, you slide it into this top bar, and then you just punch right through it, and you can see that when I'm squeezing it, it squeezes so easy. It goes through metal, wood, all kinds of stuff. I love this thing. So once I've punched a whole bunch of holes, I went some vertical and some horizontal because we're going to be switching these buckets up in different directions on this wire, and you're going to see in a minute. But right now I'm going to distress these buckets to make them look more farmhouse. I really loved this look. You could just leave them all white and maybe even paint them a different color with whatever color you have in mind. But I just love the idea of them being a little distressed with these red stripes on them. You're gonna see Miriam's hand popping in and out quite a bit because she was really into these buckets, kept wanting to take them from me, and I kept having to say, no, don't take them, I need them for my project. So here I am, you can see that I'm shifting it back and forth in different directions, these buckets. And this is the reason why I was saying I punched 2 holes going vertical and some horizontal. Once you've got them all placed with zip ties on your wire, and you can see the wire form, I ended up spray painting it white. You're then gonna flip it over and glue them all into place with some hot glue. Now at this point, we're gonna go ahead and fill these little buckets with some foam because this is going to be the cutest wreath, I swear, friends, I have ever made. I love this wreath so much, and I plan on definitely using this one on my front door, and if not my front door, then somewhere in my house, because these buckets made me so happy. And I think a lot of us see these and think I could do something cute, but last year I ended up doing an advent calendar with them, and I really loved how it turned out, and I thought I would do it again. I would take on these buckets again for the Christmas season. So you can see here that I filled them with a bunch of greenery, little picks, and then I'm going back in with some moss to finish that look off and really clean it up. Then add a bow and you're ready to hang it up. Now the next DIY is for your shutters on the front of your house or wherever you might want to display them. This is a simple project. If you are not overly a complicated DIY kind of crafty person, anybody can do this. I just wanted to show you, friends, don't spend a ton of money on wreath forms or wreaths for the Christmas season. I'm just going to take some of these 15-foot long thin garlands that they have at the Dollar Tree, a small 12-inch wreath form, and then I'm showing you how I'm weaving it in. I am not going to wrap it all the way around because that eats up a lot of the length. So what I like to do is I like to tuck it through the bottom circle and the top circle, and I just keep bringing it out. So I will tuck it in, pull it through, and come back around the front. I never loop around the back of it because it makes it last longer and it'll be thick and it will lay nicely on the front of your shutters. Once you've gone all the way around, tucking and bringing it back through on that first circle and the middle circle, you're then going to take one of these red bows. Now you can place it towards the bottom or the top. I decided to put mine towards the top. You're going to pull back a little bit of that garland, and at the second wreath circle, you're going to take the little twist ties and you're just going to twist that right on into place. This is seriously so easy to do. I hope you will all try this. To make one wreath, it only costs $2.50. So again, do not spend money on these wreaths when you can make them yourselves. Then I'm just going to take some ribbon and I'm going to loop it through the very top loop. As you can see here, I'm going to flatten it out, and then this is my favorite trick when it comes to making ribbon look finished. I'm going to tie a knot, and then I'm going to twist it down so that knot is hidden down underneath in the wreath, and then hot glue that in place. Now if you want your ribbon pattern to show and you don't want it to get all crinkled over time, add a little bit of hot glue on the sides of the ribbons and then just glue that in place, and it'll show the pattern of the ribbon so it doesn't get crinkled when it's outside in the weather and the wind's blowing it. It'll just keep it in place and it'll make it look nice. And then once you're done, make sure you leave just a little bit at the top so that you have a space to hook. And the best part about this ribbon from the Dollar Tree is there's wire in it, so you can twist it and stick it on your hooks outside. To hang them up on my shutters, I just use some of the removable hooks, the sticky hooks that you can pick up at the Dollar Tree. As always, I hope you felt inspired by these ideas today and you will give some of them a try. Leave a comment down below to let me know if you like to make wreaths for your house for the Christmas season to save on money. And I'm going to recommend a couple of videos here that are similar to this video that might interest you if you enjoyed this one. I would love it if you considered clicking that subscribe button. to join my friends here on my channel because I have new videos every single week. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content of it, and until the next episode, bye friends!